Hello everyone, today we have new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from ICM. And this time we have a quite interesting thing, because as you can see, it's a US heavy helicopter in 1/35 scale, and it copies Sikorsky CH-54A Tarhe. So this is actually the first version of this heavy helicopter, a initial version, let's say, with a bit weaker engines, but still it is quite a subject to copy, and especially in 1/35 scale it will be a large model. And I think it's actually a first decent kit of this helicopter, and now we have a chance to check it closer because we have a commercial sample here, and it means you will get exactly the same stuff as what you will see in this video review. So nothing will change for sure, and that's the final shape. By the way, the kit number is 53054. Box is very big because, as you can see, the helicopter itself should be quite large. I think it will be more than half a meter long, and here you can see comparison with my hand just to give you an idea. But again, I remind you that it barely fits into our frame, so that's why I decided to shoot it in this aspect. Here we have also the short history note and some information about the kit. So yes, it's written here that the final length will be 774 millimeters, which is a rather impressive number. And then on the opposite side we have two marking options, but I guess we will talk about them once we will open the kit, and also once we will be checking the assembly manual. In the meantime, I will cut through the plastic seals, because as usual this kit is, let's say, secured with help of these stickers. And as you can hear, it's quite heavy box, so it takes a bit of effort to turn it around on the table. And the parts count though was not that big. I will check it in a second, but I think it wasn't something really unusual, I would say, for a 1/35 scale helicopter. But first of all, I just need to cut through here, and we will take a closer look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's check the parts count. Parts count here is 573 parts. So okay, I take my words back. It's rather impressive number. I think I confused it with the with the height, because height was 225 millimeters. So it's not that tall, but it's very long helicopter, and definitely be ready to give some space for this build, because otherwise you won't be able to fit it. And actually what I'm now trying to do is to open the box, because actually here we have two boxes in one box. I will show you in a second what I'm talking about. So here you can see that one box was on the top of another. So basically they combined two standard sized boxes which we are used to see in ICM 1/32 scale kits, and this is not as cool idea as it might sound to be, because as you can hear, I'm really struggling with taking out this box out of the lid, of the top lid. And now I open the first plastic, actually cardboard box. Here we have the plastic bag with parts. So I will move this one aside. Let's show you what I'm talking about. So because this is a resealable plastic bag, it should be quite quick to open, and I will do it in a second. It's a bit cumbersome due to the size of the parts. I'm really trying not to break anything or maybe lose anything, but I hope we will make it. Okay, let's start with the first gray plastic sprue. So here we have, I think these are the fuselage panels, and also we have some parts for the engine. So again, we have a lot of rivets here. ICM was actually doing the small contest where you should have guessed the right amount of rivets, and believe me, it looks really impressive in person. But here I can see that some parts, for example these two, will have to be assembled out of two parts. So if I flip it over like this, you can see that we have guiding elements here. But overall I can see that the molding quality looks fine. I can see also guiding elements in all necessary areas, so it's more or less well thought design. Next we continue with another gray plastic sprue. So here we have a perfect example of this rivets thing. So if I zoom in a bit more, maybe let's open the lenses. Now you can see here we have the fuselage panels, quite large ones. Here you can see comparison with my hand. And if I zoom in even closer, you can see what rivets I was talking about. So there are a lot of them. And in 1/35 scale, I think it's a really good feature, but you have to be careful in order not to damage them while assembling this model. Also here we have the landing gear wheel, and each wheel, as far as I can understand, it should be assembled out of 2 halves. So be ready for that, because maybe there will be some aftermarket available. So then it will be definitely a better choice to get an aftermarket and install it onto this model. And if I flip it over here, you can check these parts from the opposite side. Again, we have guiding elements, for example, here. So this, I think this is our landing gear leg booms. So they should be assembled out of 2 halves, and we have quite nice guiding elements on them. Okay. Next, more fuselage panels. And here, again, we have rivets, as you can see. We also have the separate door. And as far as you can see, these panel lines, they look quite convincing. Here we have also the front section parts, as far as I can guess. And again, we have these cutouts for the clear parts. If I flip it over, here inside you can see we also have these lines. So I guess they will be used in order to install some bulk walls, bulkheads, or maybe some special strengthening bars, because this is quite large boxy structure, so it's definitely needed to have something inside, because otherwise you have a quite tricky time trying to get everything together. Here we continue with the tail booms. So as you can see, they have this slight angle, and maybe if I flip it over like this, you can understand what I'm talking about. Again, a lot of rivets. Here we have also some top and bottom panels, as far as I can guess. Also some wing parts. And if we flip over like this, here in these tail booms, as far as you can see, also we have this some angular ends on both sides. Quite interesting design. Here you can see also this wing getting assembled out of 2 halves. Next, we continue with the rotor blades. So this one will be quite interesting, because rotor blades, as you can see, there are actually 3 of them. I will show you just so that you can see, but I will show you only one pair because they are absolutely identical. So what we have here is one-piece parts. This is quite nice because you won't have to glue the separate halves. But again, I'm not sure if there is a right sag. I did not see this helicopter parked, but here you can see what is their profile. They're quite thin. I think they have the right shape, so there is no issue scale-wise, but in terms of the sag, and I know that some helicopter modelers really prefer to have it as a, let's say, must-have feature. So definitely check out your references so that you can understand what you have to do in order to have a bit more convincing appearance. Next, I'm opening the second box, actually, and the first plastic bag in this box. So here we have the clear frame, and I will show it in a second. Okay, so let's remove this rotor blades, and here are the clear parts. So the clear parts, they look quite nice. We have all the necessary transparent parts which will be installed on the helicopter in terms of the canopy and various windows. And masks are usually not included here, but we have included the masking templates in kits from ICM. I really hope that this one is not exclusion, because as you can see, otherwise you will have to cut out all these large areas. And also I have no doubt that there will be some aftermarket, because this is a really great opportunity for some interior masks as well. Now I'm opening one more plastic bag. Here we have quite an interesting mix of sprues, and you will see in a second why. Okay, so first of all we start with the panels for the nose section, and it's a sprue E So here you can see the panels which will be used in order to assemble the frontal section, and I think the overall design is quite understandable. Really good that this nose area or nose panel is actually molded as a single piece part, so we won't have any seams in the middle. Also, if we are talking about the minor features, again I can zoom in so that you can appreciate the external features here. They look really impressive, and I think that's what is needed in 1/35 scale. So with some careful painting and weathering you can get these details to even more impressive appearance. And if we flip over here, we have all the necessary guiding elements. As you can see, they are mostly worked as the tabs and pins. I saw some pins somewhere on some parts. So all of this stuff will be actually handy to carefully combine everything together, but obviously it's always good to check the overall fitment before gluing the parts in place. Next, we have 4 identical plastic sprues, and this is quite interesting, so I will show you them in a second. So yes, 4 pieces, and this is a sprue H. So let's check what is actually included here, because it is quite interesting why this set of parts is actually copied 4 times. So here we have engine parts, because engine on this helicopter is quite exposed and you won't be able to hide it. You won't be able actually to avoid assembling this element, so definitely get ready for this. Again, landing gear wheels, they are quite big. You can see comparison with my hand, and each wheel is assembled out of 2 halves, so definitely search for some resin replacement. I think this kit deserves some 3D printed or resin replacement from aftermarket. Here I zoomed in so that you can check all these minor elements for the engine, and as far as you can see, well, huge amount of parts count is actually going into the power plant of this helicopter. So that's why I think it would be a wise idea to actually get some reference photos in order to understand how to paint and weather this power plant. And of course, maybe it would be possible to somehow accentuate the attention on the engine. Here you can see the parts from the opposite side. Again, the same story is what we saw on the previous spruce. So each part or each element should be assembled out of 2 halves. We have guiding elements inside. So this is really useful. And next, just give me a second before all the parts fly apart. Okay, next we continue with a bigger sprue. This is a sprue F. So here we have all the parts for the rotor. Also we have some, well, these ones. And also I can see some parts for the boom, but as far as I remember it was placed on the side of the helicopter, but I'm not sure what for it was used. So if you have idea or you know why it was actually installed on the helicopter, feel free to write in the comment section. By the way, here we have some of the interior parts. For example, this is a central column, and of course all the control handles, they are not copied, so you have to scratch build them or just accept what you have, or maybe they are coming as a separate parts. We will see it further when in the video when we will be checking the assembly manual. So the last gray plastic sprue. So here we have a lot of thin parts. And this is actually a bit tricky thing, because as you can see, a lot of them are molded as a single piece assemblies, but they're still thin. For example, these fuel lines, as far as I can understand. So be careful while separating them and try to clean them up, maybe with a sharp cutter or sharp knife. And maybe in some places I'd rather even replace them with a metal wire for a bit more convincing look. But just to give you a better idea, let's zoom in. And here you can see these parts in the corner. They're really tender. And here we continue with other parts. They're exactly the same story as what we saw in the upper left corner. And still, molding quality looks good. So even on the thinnest parts, it is quite impressive. I don't have any complaints, but the assembly might be a bit tricky. Next, we continue with a decal sheet. So here we have only one decal sheet, which is rather surprising for such large kit. And here we have all necessary symbols for 2 marking options. We also have these decals for the cockpit. And for the cockpit, maybe I would recommend to get some aftermarket P, because it would give you more features, and in such large model it will be a really great change to invest into. And next we have assembly manual. So here I will have to close the lenses a bit. And as you can see, assembly manual is printed in color, so we have here the short history note and also the paints chart. Next, we continue with the parts map. So here I can see only one part being not used. I guess it will be employed in the B version, and I would be surprised if we won't see any further versions of this helicopter. By the way, there is also a civil version of this helicopter, so we just have to stay tuned. Okay, so only one part is not used in the whole kit, and here assembly process starts with the cockpit, obviously. So as far as you can see, the central console does not get the separate handles. So if you would like to change it, only the control, as you can see, handles are copied. So if you would like to add more features, definitely check some reference photos. Next, we continue here with some painting suggestions for the cockpit, because obviously you will have to think through how to paint it in advance and then enclose it with the fuselage panels. As you can see here, we finally started closing it and also installing the clear parts. We also assembled the top area of the fuselage. And here, yeah, as I said, these are actually strengthening tabs, because this is a quite large section and it should have some rigidities. That's why we have cross section of the parts, which will give the sturdiness to this sub-assembly. But really smart design, because you don't have to have the interior here, but still you have to have a really sturdy thing being built together. By the way, here I can see that actually handles are getting into the place, into the central column, and it's actually a roof column, so that's why it was installed on the later stages, as you can see, and then we enclose it with the fuselage top panel. Next, we continue with more parts being installed in the cargo area. We assemble this landing gear legs, and by the way, if you didn't know, on the real helicopter they can also kneel, so that you can so that it will be easier to attach the cargo or maybe to detach the cargo. Next, we continue with more parts, as you can see, being installed around the cargo area. We also work on the rear rotor. Here you can see some drive shaft parts being installed here and there. And frankly speaking, it's a lot of attention to these external features, but know that the engine and the main drive shaft is also nicely detailed, so I think there will be some place to play with the color variation, also with various painting techniques, because this will be a lot of fun with the painting and weathering on these elements. And now we are actually going into the engine assembly. So as you can see, it is still not in place, it's being built separately, and it's actually taken several pages in order to explain what you have to do. And it's a twin engine helicopter, by the way. That's why here we have only one engine being assembled, and then we have to do the same stuff for the second engine. And then everything getting into the place, we install the air filters, and then so engines are basically open, as I said before. I'm just looking at what are these parts, these thin parts, why they're installed here and there. Next, we continue with the hydraulic lines, I guess. These are what these thin parts. We also have thin handles. We have the screen wipers, a lot of handles actually on the front section of the fuselage. Also the tail wing. Here we continue with the main rotor being assembled out of several parts, and we have 6 rotors which will have to be installed. Here we have the final step, so in total you have to perform 208 steps in order to build this helicopter. And then we have the first marking option from, I'm not seeing the, 1968 actually. And here is another one from 1969, both are olive green. So if you have some reference material which will show you the different color, then definitely think about it. But overall, I really like what we get here out of the box. This is really impressive for this scale, and even for in comparison with other alternatives on the market. And of course, I'll be happy to hear your opinion about this release. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.